What's your name and what is your mother's name?
Okay, my name is Pete Keaveney. My mother was Carmela Keaveney. She has since passed away. She was, when she come on the orphan train, she was adopted by a family by the name of Peter and Mary Shen in Tinta, Minnesota. And of course it all evolved from there. But Carmela was her first name. The last name, her born birth name, I really can't, Capano, or it was an Italian name, because she come from the Bronx in New York.
Do you know when she was born?
Yeah, she was born in 1912. We're not real sure. It was either the 6th of April or the 12th of April. That never has been decided. Birth certificates, we were able to obtain them from the orphanage, but I think they had two different dates on it, so we're not real sure. But it's either the 6th or the 12th of April of 1912.
And where was she born?
She was born right in New York City, in the Bronx.
Could you tell us about the organization?
Okay, the Orphan Train, and we're known as the New York Orphan Train Association, with the Upper Midwest chapter, which takes in Nebraska, both Dakotas, Minnesota, and then we have a few out of Wisconsin. It's an organization that was formed in 1960. As a matter of fact, their first meeting was held at a restaurant in Wahpeton, North Dakota, and then that came about. Three ladies who were friends found out that they were all indeed orphans and that they had come on the orphan train, and so those three got together, one of them being my mother, and decided that they should have meetings every year, and it just evolved from there. Last year we had our 50th anniversary as an organization, and we've been getting together ever since. And the purpose of our organization really is to educate the younger people of the world the importance of the orphan train. And we feel that the orphan train played as big a role in the development of our country as the wagon train did back in the late 1800s. One of the orphans that rode the train, and I'm just not sure what year, he rode it to Indiana. Migrated at a later time up into North Dakota, married a young lady from Castleton, and become the first governor of North Dakota after North Dakota become a state. Alan, I think it was Alan or Andrew Burke, I think was his name. There's a statue of him at the Capitol building in Bismarck. But you know, we have a lot of people that played an important role in the development of our country that were orphans, that rode the orphan train. There's a lot of orphans, but we're concerned strictly with the orphan train. The youngsters that come out of New York City, most of them out of the Fondling Hospital and the Children's Aid Society. There was two different organizations that put them on trains and sent them to the Midwest. Some when they got here, adoptions were prearranged. Other ones were just put up on a podium and they were asked questions, and some ended up in good homes, some ended up as laborers for some farmers, you know. I mean, and at our meetings, a lot of those people will talk. They'll tell us about their younger days, and I know there's a nun that was an orphan that talks about her experiences, and she went through a couple different homes before she was really accepted, and some of them had a real hard life. My mother was very fortunate. She was adopted by a good family, although my mother was, I shouldn't say it this way, but she was kind of a brat when she was younger. She kept going in the chicken coop, and her dad told her she couldn't do that. She did again. He was going to lock her in. Well, that happened. He locked her in, and she broke all the windows in the chicken house from the inside. And this is back, in the before 1920, I'm sure. But, but she had a good home, and we're fortunate that my mother did have the home that she did have.
Where was she living when she became aware of the orphan train?
Well, she was raised in the Tinta, Minnesota area, so, and she never did leave. She left there. She taught school for a short time and assisted in the South Dakota area, but primarily, I remember her talking about it in the 1950s. So we were living on a farm in Tinta, Minnesota. Tinta is just south of Breckenridge, about 20 miles. So I guess I had to say Tinta, the place that she was sent to and adopted by this family. That's where she was living when she was made aware of it.
And was she homeless before she was on the orphan train?
No, her mother, when she was born, she was taken right to the fondling home, and she was there apparently for a couple of years, and then after, there was thousands and thousands of kids that went through this fondling home, fondling hospital, it's known in the later years, and now they just call it the fondling, and then it's still in existence. But no, she wasn't homeless. She was put in the home right away, given up by her real mother.
How did she become a part of the orphan train?
Well, through the fondling, through the adoption society, they just, kids were just put on the train and sent. Like I said, and some of the children, and as I understand it, there was a Catholic priest that went ahead, like a beer salesman would do. You pre-sale. Okay, this Catholic priest went ahead and he arranged for adoptions in different families in different parts of the country. They were on a train and stopped at different towns. They probably went to different churches, talked to somebody at the church, tried to find parents for the children, and then after that was all set up, because her parents, she was only 2 years old, so she didn't know, but they were aware that this particular little girl would have a home when she got to Tinta. They knew who the parents were, but the parents didn't really know who they were getting as such.
What year did she ride the train?
In 1914. She was just 2 years old.
Where was her destination?
Their destination was, she was one that was prearranged, so it was Tinta, Minnesota.
Did she know who her adopted parents were going to be?
Well, yeah, because of her age, I'm sure she didn't, but the society did. The family knew who her parents were going to be.
How many kids were on the orphan train with her?
Oh, I guess I've never heard a figure on that, but it was a train that was primarily dedicated to hauling orphans, and I'm sure they had other passengers or freight or something on that same train, but I really couldn't tell you how many kids that were up for adoption were on that train. But there was 250 to 300,000 kids over the period of years that rode the orphan train to different parts of the United States, so.
How was it decided who her parents would be?
Well, there again, there was different ways of doing it. Her adoption was prearranged, like I mentioned earlier, by this Catholic priest, and I'm sure that maybe her parents asked for a certain nationality or asked for a female, so it was she was chosen that way. I don't believe they had a choice of who it was. They just wanted a girl, and so then my mother was chosen by the orphanage that Carmela would go to that certain family.
And how were her living conditions with her parents?
She was fortunate. She went to a good home, and I gotta say, a good Catholic home. I was born and raised Catholic. My dad, of course, was, but she was very fortunate to have a good home. But then my mother was known as a kind of a little brat when she was younger. I know there was a time when they lived not too far. They lived on a farm,